Well, you can have a fire on water with
oil.
With bacon grease. You just
Grief bacon. Welcome to the edge of nowhere. They're playing games at the edges of what we know. Monster Lore Tour Podcast. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 71st episode of the Monster Lore Tour Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere podcast. Yeah, wow, right?
Wow.
I am your host, Jeremy Carr, here along with my co-host and the Buford, the bull-nosed bullfrog to my Rudolph, the red-eyed knot deer.
Dang.
Mr. Matt Ozero, a.k.a. the Moz. How we doing today, Moz?
Nice. I think you did like a double reference there.
I had a callback.
Like things that no one will ever get except us.
Yeah, that was a double callback to your last episode, as well as the last Christmas special, which was also your episode.
Yeah.
Where you turned Rudolph into a red-eyed knot deer.
Yes, I remember.
And I'm pretty sure Santa was like an evil mushroom or something. I can't even remember how it all played out.
There was a Krampus component. There was an evil mushroom component. That's not mine. I was just, reminding people
I still
of that.
have nightmares of the evil tooth elf, though. I will say that.
Yeah. As well you should.
Yeah, but this is a whole different Christmas, so let's get into this one. Do we have any old business?
Oh.
I didn't even check my notes. I don't think I do. How's that?
Yeah. It's good for me.
If we do, it just makes more old business for next time. How about that?
Very old business.
If anyone has anything you think we missed or got wrong, something we need to change or update, email us monsterloretour@gmail.com. Let us know. Otherwise, we'll try to keep track of ourselves and all that. Before we get into it, if you could just take a quick second, hit some of those happy fun buttons on whatever platform you're on. Give us a like, a subscribe, maybe share with a friend, things like that. And we'll jump right into it here. This episode actually comes out on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah.
I do now.
Yeah. Good timing this year for our release.
Yep. That's better. That's more Krampus territory, and that's more fitting.
Yeah, there you
us.
go. Everything we talk about today will happen either on Christmas Eve, Christmas, or the Boxing Day, the morning after Christmas, basically. Go. I call it Canadian Christmas. Yeah. There's a number of countries that do the Boxing Day thing.
Yeah, UK.
But last year was your turn, Maz. You ruined Christmas for everyone last year with the whole, demonic knot deer and Santa as a psychedelic sister kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I am going to take my turn ruining Christmas this year.
Nice.
And since I do more like the true crimey stuff and whatnot, I am doing the worst ever real life Christmas disasters, fire and water edition.
Wow. So you're bringing the elements together with Santa Claus for
correct.
Okay.
It's fire and water today. That leaves it open for more potential disaster episodes later on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But this will be the fire and water Christmas edition of the disaster that is at Monster Lore Tour.
There you go.
Sometimes your brain just makes it come out, and before you get to think about it, and you're like, why would I say it that way? But this will be a presentation of some of the worst things to ever happen on or right around Christmas involving these elements of fire and water. So there is a PSA trigger warning for this one. Maybe not so good for the kids on the actual holiday, at least. We will be discussing real events during which lots of real people died. We're still going to probably make our bad off-color jokes throughout because that's what we do here. So, no disrespect to anyone involved, no disrespect to the dead or the event or anything like that. Yep. This is just one of those podcasts. Our A+ dog is whining in the studio already.
We just gave her an A+ for studio dog.
That's what we get for talking about it.
I don't know.
Should we give her some mad cujos?
Yeah.
Mad cujos, Junebug.
Damn boy!
But anywho, so if, you're already depressed enough this Christmas and you're not really up for all this disaster, save this one for later. But if you're looking to dive down deep into the darkness MLT style on this holiday, then come on along with us here.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off easy and build up, okay? So first, let's just get into like common Christmas disasters.
Yeah.
This is actually going to be
basic common.
Yeah, it's almost like a PSA, like safety tips for the holidays before we get into like the worst of it. So, maybe help some people avoid some of their own personal disasters this year. So, you ready for this train wreck, Moz?
I am.
First, let's address the most common holiday season-related injuries. These injuries do not discriminate. Any celebration that includes electric decorations and celebration with family and or friends can be subject to these all too common injuries people suffer during the season. I have here a list of the 8 most common types of holiday injury, published in an article by the AARP.
Electrocution.
So it's the old people know about hurting themselves. So this, they're good at writing these lists.
Yep.
So let's see what they got.
D's nuts roasting on an open fire.
Which ones?
D's nuts.
So first you got the trip and falls, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people injure themselves tripping on things like wrapping paper, errant toys, family pets, light cords, all kinds of things scrambled around all over the place during the holidays. So remember to watch your step out there. And kind of use the desert hiking rule when you're going through the Christmas morning living room of don't step where you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
There's my tip for that one. Number 2, we have falling from a ladder, step stool, or roof. Right? Who hasn't been there, right?
That's a different category of the same category.
The trip and fall as opposed to the falling off of something up.
But you could trip and then fall off of. I'm just saying.
You could trip on a roof, trip and fall on a roof and then fall off the roof.
Yeah.
You will injure yourself twice.
Which category would that go into as well?
Both. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to watch out for the snowball effect on this stuff too.
Ooh.
But we all know how fun it is to climb on an ice-covered roof or frozen metal ladder to make our homes all shiny for the holidays, right?
Yep.
But turns out it is a notably dangerous tradition. Why don't you read this one for us, Moz? We're going to have our first reading from AARP here.
On average, about 160 people suffer decorating-related injuries each day during the holiday season, with almost half of the incidents involving falls. According to the CPSC, during the 2022 holiday season, about 14,800 people were treated in hospital emergency rooms for injuries from holiday decorating. Wow.
Right?
More than 40% of the injuries were from falling. People climb up ladders to put up lights or to put up decorations, and they climb higher than they should. Levine says, if you're not steady on your feet at baseline, you don't belong on a ladder at all.
Good advice there, too. Yeah. So almost 15,000 people in the hospital for the holidays in 1 year.
Well, only 14,800, but with your help, kids, we can reach that 15,000 goal this season.
I'm just going to go jump off the roof a couple hundred times and get the,
we can do this by the end of the week.
Round that number up. But be careful out there climbing, everybody. And my advice is to just decorate the windows from the inside and keep your feet on the ground.
Just get the thing that you turn on and it just lights up the house with little designs go around and swirls. You've seen that, right? You put a little disc and light.
Yeah. There you go.
And nobody got injured doing that.
The projector lights. Yeah, the projector light. This next one is maybe the most disconcerting to me for some reason. Let's see how you feel about it, Moz. I'm just going to read this excerpt from the article and then we'll discuss it, okay? Number 3, heart attack. A study published in the journal Circulation showed that more cardiac deaths occur on Christmas, December 25th, than on any other day of the year. The next most deadly days are December 26th and then January 1st. Look at that.
There you go.
Researchers aren't sure why deadly heart attacks increase during the last week of the year, but they suspect it is because the holidays are a stressful time, when many people eat heavy meals, get out of their routines, or inadvertently skip their medications.
Yeah.
Sometimes all three at the same time.
Yeah.
People may also exert themselves more than usual, whether they're putting up decorations, like we just discussed, preparing to host a gathering, or shoveling snow. Quote, during the holidays, people tend to overdo it. They're eating and drinking more than normal. They may have more activity than normal, Waters says. All of that can put more stress on your heart and circulatory system.
Do you know what they call that? Because I'm aware of this phenomenon.
What's that?
Holiday heart.
Oh, there's actually a term specifically for that.
Yep. That's
Well,
it.
there you go.
And that's it.
There you go.
Yep.
I just learned a new term.
Holiday heart. Yeah, I just said it.
Kummerspeck.
Ooh, what's that mean?
It's German.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait. I know some German.
The actual
words, but-
definition, the way they use it, it's
Mhm.
basically the word for emotional overeating or like stress eating.
Ooh.
But if you directly translate it to English,
Mm-hmm.
it's grief bacon.
I love German.
It's
You
my
just
new
put
favorite
words together
thing.
and keep making
Yeah.
longer and longer words, and then it gets to what you actually mean. That's amazing.
My favorite grief bacon is Oreo cookies with whipped cream. I have discovered that recently. Grief bacon. Isn't that like the best thing you've ever
It's
heard?
the best thing I've heard today.
So these holiday seasons,
It's
stick
only
with the
7
regular.
a.m. here, but
Stick with the regular bacon, not the grief bacon. It's better that way. It's better that way.
we got to drain the bacon grief before you.
Drain the bacon grief before you throw in the onions. Yes.
That's what I do.
It keeps it much healthier that way. Get rid of the grief before you put in the onions. Wow. All right, number 4. Back to the list here. This is actually the most common of injuries during the holidays. Self-inflicted knife wounds.
Dang, that almost went up my nose.
Yeah, cutting yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
Another traditionally dangerous tradition we have for Christmas is the wrapping and opening of presents.
Hey, you know what they call it when you cut yourself? If it happens around Christmas, it's elf injurious behavior.
Oh, nice. Nice. But there are many times we use cutting tools during the holidays, from common scissors to box cutters to pocket knives.
To Boxing Day.
This makes it no wonder. Yeah, Boxing Day is definitely involved. This makes it no wonder, especially with so many things coming in that damned clamshell plastic type packaging that you can't open without risking a digit, that self-inflicted knife wounds actually account for a full 13% of all holiday-related injury, with Christmas specifically owning most of those stats.
Yeah.
It's like Christmas morning, there's a lot of blood apparently involved.
People are excited. There's people rushing around.
Yeah, and you got
They've
the
been
sharp
drinking
knife. You're
more.
like, damn, open
Yeah.
the damn
Mhm.
package and
Mhm.
slice.
Yep.
So keep your digits intact.
Here's a Ginsu, Jimmy. Open up your new bike.
Yeah. Take your brand new knife and open up that plastic clamshell. Why do we still make that stuff?
Yeah.
Swear it's not worth the trouble.
Yeah. Hey, and on another monster note, thinking about a clam monster episode because I'm finding some of those. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Yeah.
The places we will go
Yeah. That's true.
here at the Monster Lore Tour.
Yep.
I mean, how much more of a deep dive do you get than monster clams, right?
I know. That's
Like you literally have to deep dive for that.
to get that shit. You have to hold your breath a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that.
It's a good thing I quit smoking.
Yeah. I picked the wrong week.
Okay, next, I feel like we have a little extra Christmas cheer in us today, Moss. Next, we got to get it out of our system before we get into the grief part of this Grief Bacon episode.
Well, we got to get into the holiday heart spirit.
There you go. So next, we have my personal favorite on this list, actually. I have been both witness and victim to this very type of injury during the holidays, so it has a special place next to my heart. Or maybe in my heart, apparently, in my holiday heart, which coincidentally is where it happened to me, actually. Getting hit by a champagne cork.
Dang, yeah. That's not on the list, though, of injuries.
This is the next one on the list.
Really?
Yeah. This is actually makes the top 8. This is number 5.
Gosh. It does come out fast.
Getting hit by a champagne cork.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it hurts.
Yeah.
Here's what the article says about it. A flying champagne cork travels at up to 50 miles an hour as it leaves the bottle, fast enough to shatter glass, according to the American Academy of Ophthalmology. That's the eyes, right?
Yeah.
If it hits someone in the eye, it can cause bleeding, corneal abrasion, and serious eye injury. Waters says, quote, people push the cork off with their thumb and then it goes flying across the room, he says.
Yes.
That's dangerous. It becomes a projectile.
Yep.
You got to hold it in your hand and pull it off so that when it comes off,
I
it
just
stays in
aim
your
it.
hand.
I did this yesterday.
I caught one straight on, right out of the bottle, right in the chest, man. It literally was like a rubber bullet.
I'm saying we have that shade you pull down, the big one outside. I just aim it for that.
Oh, there
It's
you
great.
go. Yeah,
It's
there
like
you go.
it's like it catches it. Yeah.
It's like the net at the end of the driving range kind of thing.
And I'm like, hey, Jimmy, stand in front of the shade a minute.
Yeah. Out on the patio shade. Yeah.
And the closest one to hitting Jimmy without hitting Jimmy wins.
Oh, that's a fun game. I've played similar games.
We spend a lot of time in the ER in my house around Christmas.
Yeah. All right, so watch out for projectiles. And then we have number 6, fire. Fire.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about fire in this episode today, so I'll just say that a lot of people burn their houses down during the holidays with candles, electric decorations, cooking-related fires during the holidays.
Yeah.
Be careful with your fire during the season, everyone. I'm looking particularly at the turkey deep fryer people.
Oh, yeah.
They've become infamous for this.
Yeah.
So just make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure there is 0 ice left in that turkey is the big thing.
Yeah.
That reduces the possibility of explosion greatly.
Yeah.
The big thing to note here, though, actually, is the Christmas tree fires.
Oh, yeah.
This is the most common type of residential fire to start during the holidays, and a third of those fires actually occur in January. So take down your tree in a timely fashion. You're supposed to take down your tree by New Year's. Just remember that so you don't burn your house down. That's the tip there. Number 7, we have food poisoning. I mean, what do you have to say? If Aunt Bertha's turkey is still pink, don't eat it.
Yeah.
And don't eat it until it hurts either, even though it hurts so good sometimes, because that can actually make you sick just as much as the actual poisoning side. Yeah. Although if it's grief bacon, there's always room for grief bacon.
Always.
And finally, on the list, number 8, accidental ingestion of foreign objects. So what am I talking?
Why is that a thing around Christmas?
It's weird, right? Like people just
is
start
this
swallowing
a drinkable gift?
Things.
Am I supposed to drink this gift?
The funny part is this article focuses on not what you would think. Like you're thinking small toys and stuff that kids might swallow, right? Is where your brain starts going. They're talking about make sure you remember which plate the pot brownies are on as compared to the regular brownies. Ooh. So that grandpa doesn't accidentally get a pot brownie after dinner. Or maybe one of the kids or the dog gets one of your, keep track of your adult tweets.
Right.
Treats. Your adult treats.
Your tweets too. You really got to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah. My brain is birdie today. So yeah, that's one you got to watch out for. There's also the toxic stuff and the choking stuff that goes on, but apparently people accidentally eating adult medicated substances is kind of a common thing these days.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it? But all right, that ends our PSA portion of the episode. We're going to get down into the really monstrous level of disasters. I do like using Mother Nature as the monster sometimes, which is kind of where I'm going with this one. But these are the disasters that have ruined Christmases past for a lot of people instead of just the individual like we were just talking about. We begin with our fire section, and then we will transition to the water and float on down the road from there. So I'm going to start you off easy with this first one, where the main damage was a loss of knowledge rather than a loss of life in the end.
The burning of Library of Alexandria? Was that on Christmas?
Bastards.
Did I do it? I was guessing.
You're
I had
really,
a 1 in 3
you're
inches.
close.
Okay.
It is a library.
The Internet Archive burned down.
The Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. burned on Christmas Eve, 1851.
Dang.
Yeah. This from an article on grunge.com to explain. With a faulty chimney and stacks of paper everywhere, the Library of Congress was really little more than a fire waiting to happen. And happen it did on December 24th, 1851. As the local newspaper, the National Era, reported at the time, all of Washington, D.C. was, quote, intensely excited by the great calamity, unquote, that befell the library.
Excited?
I love how they talked back then. Excited by the great calamity. It means
I don't have to read that book. Yay.
Yeah.
All the kids were happy.
That morning, the captain of the Capitol Police opened up the library, as usual, but 2 hours later, the smell of smoke was unmistakable. And once the officer opened up the doors to the library to check, the massive flames made it all pretty clear. Firefighters were promptly called, but since there had been a large blaze just the night before, they were apparently quite tired and slow to make their way to the Capitol. See all those holiday fires, half the guys worn out already. The fire was eventually put out and all nearby people were safe, but the collections were devastated. According to history, about 2/3 of the books, papers, artworks, and other parts of the Library of Congress holdings were utterly destroyed by the flames in the sooty smoke. Many of Thomas Jefferson's donated library books were also assuredly destroyed, though it's clear that not all of his books were lost. As per the Library of Congress, a portion of Jefferson's books, including an 18th century copy of the Quran, are still in the library's special collections today. Here's the thing. The reason Thomas Jefferson's personal library was so much in the Library of Congress was because this was not the first time it suffered a major fire. It actually burned down a few times before they figured it out. Let's look at a quick history of the Library of Congress. To begin, we're going to start with something from history.com. That makes sense, right? Why don't you read this little bit for me here, Moz?
The Library of Congress was established in 1800 when President John Adams approved legislation that appropriated $5,000 to purchase such books as may be necessary for the use of Congress. The first books ordered from London arrived in 1801 and were stored in the U.S. Capitol, the library's first home. The first library catalog, dated April 1802, listed 964 volumes and 9 maps. 12 years later, the British Army invaded the city of Washington and burned the Capitol, including the 3,000-volume Library of Congress. You know what's funny is Bones, yours, and my library is comparable to the
yeah, right,
to the Library of Congress of this time.
Right. A very extensive collection for the day, though, even though we can maybe match it now.
For people who never got jobs.
Right, but initially, a lot of people probably don't know this because I didn't know this. The library originally was only accessible to members of Congress and their charges, like people who worked in or for Congress.
Right.
The public wasn't allowed access to the library initially. It was only later that the library became open to the American people, to whom it actually belongs, because we're paying for it.
Yeah. And then they burned that shit down.
But then the fire started. Yeah. The first time the Library of Congress burned was along with many other D.C. landmarks in 1814, which is what we were just talking about.
When we took a little trip.
That was during the War of 1812 when the British came in and started lighting all the fires. Yeah. Coincidentally enough, the treaty that ended the War of 1812, the treaty was signed on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
Yeah. In 1814. Exactly 37 years before this fire we're talking about in 1851.
There we go.
So there you go. Yeah. Then the library burned again in 1825, at which point the House of Representatives started looking into using fire retardant materials in the rebuilding of the library. So it would, stop catching fire all the time and destroying all the most expensive collection of books, ever put together at that point, at least in this hemisphere, probably. And they had all kinds of other artifacts and stuff like paintings and, all kinds of different artworks and stuff. So it was kind of a big deal when this happened, and it kept happening. But even still, little attention was paid at the time to these, looking into the fire retardant materials. And the library was cheaply rebuilt without actually considering those considerations. So hence the worst of the fires to ever strike the Library of Congress on Christmas Eve, 1851. It was a devastating loss after the rebuilding following the 2 previous fires in such a short period. But they did finally learn their lesson because, they burned it and restocked it and burned it and restocked it. They had to stop burning all these books.
This time the castle fell over, sank, and then sank in the swamp. But the 4th one stood.
Yep. And that's how government works. So to explain how they did finally address the problem, I'm going to have Moz read this from GratefulAmericanFoundation.org.
After the fire of 1851, architect of the Capitol Thomas U. Walter presented a plan to repair and enlarge the library room using fireproof materials throughout. The elegantly restored library room was opened on August 23, 1853. Called by the press the largest iron room in the world, it was encircled by galleries and filled the west central front of the Capitol. A month before the opening, President Franklin Pierce inspected the new library in the company of the British scientist Sir Charles Lyell, who pronounced it the most beautiful room in the world.
Oh. And the books lived happily ever after and never burned again. Yay!
Until people who didn't want to read decided to ban them.
But no, really, though, it never burned again. They finally built it right. And the collection has been growing since 1851. So, you know,
Nice.
they did finally fix it, at least.
They did finally go beyond our 3 libraries of...
Yeah, they had to burn like
unemployed
3,000 books of the most expensive and rare type in
Several
the world.
times, several times, yeah.
But they figured it out.
There you go.
All right, now let's take a step farther down into the darkness here, children. And we go now to the year 1913, again on Christmas Eve, to the town of Calumet, Michigan, where one can witness the deadliest mining-related disaster to ever occur in the state of Michigan, and the scars from this tragedy linger in the Calumet community to this day. It's going to get real dark real fast here, everybody, so hold on.
Well, we're in a mine.
Yeah, well, you would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Let's see where this goes. For this tale, we go to an article from mlive.com, M standing for Michigan, published December 24th, 2019, on the anniversary of the disaster. Calumet, Michigan. When you first hear the details behind the 1913 Italian Hall disaster, the tragedy seems too terrible to be real. Imagine a crowded Christmas Eve party inside a large social hall at the heart of the Upper Peninsula's copper country. Most of the guests are union miners' families, glad for some holiday cheer because they're 5 months into a labor strike. Someone falsely yells, "Fire!" and hundreds of people on the second floor panic, causing a stampede down a steep stairwell as they all try to get outside. 73 people died on the stairs, 59 of them children. The youngest was 2. There was never actually a fire.
Yeah.
It was the largest mining-related disaster to occur in Michigan. The fact that it happened above ground and that most of its victims were children enjoying a Christmas party, made it even more heartbreaking, researchers say. That it happened against the backdrop of a bitter labor strike added a harsh political edge and tore the grief-stricken community apart. Speculation was that the false fire call came from an anti-union person, perhaps affiliated with mine management, who wanted to break up the striking workers' party. Several witnesses in a federal inquest in 1914 testified that one of the people seen yelling fire had an anti-union button on his coat. No one was ever charged with the crime. This event has become a touchstone for tiny Calumet. Quote, "It happened in a time when women were labor leaders and even children had strike parades. But this was different. These were innocent victims of the strike, so there was more weight, more emotion. This was a tragedy that affected families for generations and still does." Unquote. This Christmas Eve, like in years past, 73 luminaries will be lit in a village park where the Italian Hall once stood. There is one light for each victim, placed by the Calumet Rotary Club. They will line a walkway leading to a sandstone and brick archway, the doorway into the building where they died. So there is a monument there. They left the arch of the doorway that they were trying to get out of.
Dang.
So yeah, is Christmas ruined yet here, Moz?
Hey,
I feel like I did a quick job of it.
You find a different way to ruin Christmas than I did a year ago.
Yeah, well, I had to bring my own style.
I used bass, Rankin, and all the old Christmas marionette stuff to bring in, all kinds of evil shamanic monsterness.
Because you were like ruining childhoods. I'm just ruining your day.
Yeah, it is different.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Totally different. Yeah. I think we have a tradition now to ruin Christmas every year.
It's kind of our thing, I think, yeah. We're going to have to take turns trying to outdo each other on ruining Christmas. That's going to be a fun tradition. By season 5, they're going to have to lock us up.
Yeah. Well, season 4.
Mom's just going to be beating the crap out of me on mic. He's like, "I'll ruin your Christmas, goddammit." Anywho, we go now from Christmas Eve to Christmas morning. This time, the year is 1971. In the location, Seoul, Korea. This Christmas morning was ruined for the country of South Korea when it suffered the most deadly hotel fire in the history of hotel fires. Specifically, we find ourselves outside the Daeyeonggak Hotel, a 21-story structure in the heart of Seoul. Heart of Seoul?
Oh, yeah. Clever.
Where the smoke is just starting to rise. We turn to this article from KoreaHerald.com to see how this disaster unfolded. Fire authorities determined that the fire started around 9:50 a.m. on Christmas morning at a coffee shop on the second floor from a propane gas tank explosion in the kitchen. Nowadays, it is against the law to store propane gas tanks indoors, but at the time, there were no proper fire prevention measures in place for the maintenance and storage of the highly explosive gas. The gas tank was placed near the cooktop.
Nice.
There you go. The blaze quickly spread, as the building's interior was filled with combustible materials such as carpets and wooden furniture.
And grief bacon.
And a lot of grief bacon in that kitchen on Christmas morning, you know? The stairways, elevator shafts, and corridors, which were built with little consideration of blocking the spread of fire or smoke, acted like a great chimney. So it was built to, make the fire worse rather than to suppress it.
And to kill Santa.
Ah. The building also didn't have any fire safety equipment, such as sprinklers, fire alarms, or even escape ropes. Guests and employees trapped in the burning tower smashed windows and called out for help. Many from the lower floors made their way to the rooftops of adjoining buildings and were rescued, but those in the higher floors could not. At the scene, fire trucks from all over Seoul had gathered, more than 10 helicopters and about 1,900 personnel. Firefighters, police officers, district officials, members of the South Korean and U.S. military were mobilized. But they could not do much to save those trapped in the high floors. With no equipment to respond to a high-rise fire, the tallest ladder they had could only reach the 7th floor. It was a 21-story building. Victims could not escape to the roof either, as the doors were locked. Scores of bodies were later found right in front of the locked doors. Fire authorities didn't have any air mattresses to save the lives of those fallen. At least 38 died after falling from high floors. 2 fell to the ground and died while being airlifted by helicopters as they failed to hold on to the helicopter's rescue ladder. Chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos. All sorts of efforts were deployed. Archers even shot arrows with ropes attached to reach the higher floors, but the ropes were too heavy for the arrows. It was the country's first high-rise fire, a disaster that struck the country when it wasn't even aware of the need to prepare for such accidents. Hindsight 2020. Seoul today is a city of skyscrapers, but at that time, Daeyeonggak had towered over the low-lying cityscape as a symbol of success in modern luxury. Quote, "Modern firefighting capabilities were virtually non-existent at that time," said Professor Choi Don-mook at the Department of Fire Engineering at Gocheon University. Quote, "There were no proper tall ladder trucks," unquote. The tragedy served as a wake-up call for fire safety awareness and led to changes in building codes, stricter fire safety regulations, and improvements in the nation's fire response capability, he said. Fire insurance became mandatory for all large buildings after Daeyeonggak. So, that's a case of there's nothing worse than learning big lessons the hard way.
Yeah, especially in the holidays.
Yeah, I'm sure there wasn't a lot of Christmas cheer wafting around Seoul or really all of Korea that Christmas.
Now that do they even, of course, celebrate? That's a good question. Or was it just that it fell on that date? But I imagine not.
I mean, Catholicism is definitely a thing over there. I would imagine there's a certain level of Christmas going on. I mean, it's probably not as prevalent as in North America here, but yeah. I would think it's a thing for a good number of people there, I would think. Mm-hmm. But as I said before, we're just going to keep getting worse here, and I have an even bigger Christmas disaster for you right now.
Dang. This
one will be our transition from the fire portion to the water portion.
I was hoping to transition from Christmas to New Year's.
You're doing the New Year's episode. I'm just doing Christmas.
Yeah.
So for this next tale of Christmas horrors past, we're going to journey to the town of Halifax in Nova Scotia, Canada. This time the disaster occurs actually on December 6th, the year 1917. Almost 3 weeks before Christmas, yes, but it does tie in very much to the Christmas holiday in the end. And this disaster was big enough to affect the entire region through the holiday. So a disaster is about to occur on the harbor outside Halifax in a shipping lane area known as the Narrows. At this point, it would be the biggest explosion ever witnessed in the history of modern man.
Oh, wait.
Huh?
Like Hiroshima bigger?
This is 1917.
Oh, until before.
In December of 1917.
Until that point, yeah.
The world was in the throes of World War I.
Yeah, up to 19.
It wasn't until Hiroshima and Nagasaki that humans created an explosion bigger than this.
Right.
Correct. It's the fact that it was before. That's the only time we've made a bigger boom than this.
So will there sea serpent activity after this?
Well, the thing is this one wasn't on purpose. It's the problem. This one is an accident.
Yeah.
That big. But in December of 1917, the world was in the throes of World War I, and Halifax Harbor, as one of the largest and deepest ice-free harbors in the world, was a main focus of transatlantic trade between the Allies across the pond. Basically anything going from Europe to America or the other way went through this harbor on its journey. So this made the harbor a target. So it was fortified by both Canadian and British military out of fear of German U-boats someday surfacing in the harbor. It was a key strategic point in the Allies' supply lines back and forth between the Americas and Europe. So that being said, during this time it was a very busy port with lots of daily traffic. And this also led to a swelling of the local population, which was up to around 50,000 people with the influx of wartime-related personnel. And this was just a little harbor town before that. So this was like a huge growth spurt for the place. To enter the harbor's inner sanctum, a ship would first have to pass through an area known as the Narrows. It was called this because it was narrow. A stretch where passing ships would need to stay in their respective lanes in order to pass through safely. There literally was no room for error with two larger ships passing in the Narrows. Everybody had to stay in their lane.
Can I make a guess? One of the ships had a frozen turkey in a deep fryer as they were going by each other. Okay.
Oh, I thought you caught my hint, but maybe not. Let's move on. On the morning of December 6th, 1917, two such ships were passing simultaneously through the Narrows. One was the Belgian supply ship named the IMO, which was leaving port that morning. The other was the Mont Blanc, a French munitions ship loaded to the gills with literal tons of ammunition headed to the front lines in Europe. You can maybe see where this is going now.
Yeah, up
and out. And boom.
Yeah.
As the IMO entered the Narrows for departure, it broke. And this is the one leaving. This is not the ammunition ship. This is the other one. As the IMO entered the Narrows for departure, it broke all established protocols and started driving on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
Or whatever the nautical equivalent to that phrase would be.
Yeah.
When the Mont Blanc entered the Narrows in the typical fashion, following the rules, it suddenly found the IMO bearing down on it on a collision course. Due to the stubbornness and or stupidity on behalf of the captains of actually both the ships, but particularly the IMO.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you.
The ships suffered a jarring collision. Yeah. The ships were able to separate themselves. The IMO sailed on, but the Mont Blanc suffered a gash in its starboard side bow.
The munitions ship.
Munitions ship. The splitting of the hull had caused some heavy sparking inside the cargo hold. This ignited some grains of dry picric acid below decks, basically lighting a fuse. Mm-hmm. The fire quickly spread through the munition-laden vessel.
Wow.
As the crew recognized the danger and abandoned ship, rowing desperately for the shore, the townspeople Unaware of the imminent danger, because they don't know what's on the boat, they just see the smoke.
Yep.
They're drawn toward the harbor to
help.
witness the great plume of black smoke now emitting from the Mont Blanc. For 20 minutes, the fire burned, drawing more and more curious onlookers from the surrounding town.
And it's narrow, so they're not that far away from this. Yeah.
None outside the ship's crew. Well, they made it into the port before they abandoned the ship. So they did get out of the Narrows, but it's right there in the port.
Now it's right off the dock, yeah.
None outside the ship's crew and just a few savvy harbor workers understood what was about to happen, and they had no way of warning the town of the impending doom. All they could basically do was watch and pray. Then came the inevitable. Here is an article from the Canadian Encyclopedia.ca. The Mont Blanc exploded at 9:04 a.m., sending out a shockwave in all directions, followed by a tsunami that washed violently over the Halifax and Dartmouth shores.
Dang.
More than 2.5 square kilometers of Richmond were totally leveled, either by the blast, the tsunami, or the structure fires caused when buildings collapsed inward on lantern stoves and furnaces. Homes, offices, churches, factories, vessels, including the Mont Blanc, the railway station and freight yards, and hundreds of people in the immediate area were obliterated. Farther from the epicenter, Citadel Hill deflected shockwaves away from the south and west ends of Halifax, where shattered windows and displaced doors were the predominant damage. The blast shattered windows in Truro, 100 kilometers away, and was heard in Prince Edward Island. The crew of the fishing boat Wave, working off the coast of Massachusetts, even claimed to have heard the boom rumbling across the ocean. It's hundreds of miles. Author Laura MacDonald describes the ferocity of the explosion in her book Curse of the Narrows as follows. The air blast blew through the narrow streets, toppling buildings and crashing through windows, doors, walls, and chimneys until it slowed to 756 miles an hour, 5 miles below the speed of sound. The blast crushed internal organs, exploding lungs and eardrums of those standing closest to the ship, most of whom died instantly. It picked up others, only to thrash them against trees, walls, and lampposts with enough force to kill them. Roofs and ceilings collapsed on top of their owners. Floors dropped into the basement and trapped families under timber beams and furniture. This was particularly dangerous for those close to the harbor because a fireball, which was invisible in the daylight, shot out over a 1 to 4 mile area surrounding the Mont Blanc. A cloud of invisible fire.
Like plasma.
Miles of radius. Yeah, like plasma, exactly. Richmond houses caught fire like so much kindling, and houses able to withstand the blast, windows stretched inward until the glass shattered around its weakest point, sending out a shower of arrow-shaped slivers that cut their way through curtains, wallpaper, and walls. The glass spared no one. Some people were beheaded where they stood. Others were saved by a falling bed or bookshelf. Many others, who had watched the fire seconds before, awoke to find themselves unable to see.
See, we would have been fine. We had all those bookshelves that would have fallen on us, and we would have been fine.
This is why you hide in your hermit cave most of the time.
That's why I'm not coming out, ever. Stuff like this.
Yeah. The more we make this podcast, the less you leave your cave. I have noticed that.
The more we deep fry turkeys.
Yeah. Continuing. The blast shot vaporized sections of the Mont Blanc upwards in a great fireball. The large shank of the ship's anchor was sent flying across the city and over the northwest arm, nearly 4 kilometers away, where it remains to this day. That's pretty crazy. The Emo was tossed like a toy onto the Dartmouth shoreline. It's the other boat just got thrown. Meanwhile, burning metal fragments of Mont Blanc showered down on Halifax along with a black rain of carbon particles. People were also blown through the sky Where and how they landed largely determined whether they lived or died. Charles Mayers, third officer of the vessel Middleham Castle, was picked up and dropped nearly 1 kilometer from his ship, landing atop Fort Needham Hill in Richmond. Quote, "I was wet when I came down," Mayers said. "I had no clothes on when I came to except my boots. There was a little girl near me and I asked her where we were. She was crying and said she did not know where we were. Some men gave me a pair of trousers and a rubber coat." Unquote. Guy got blown through the air, landed naked on a hill, and lived.
We've all been there.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I've woken up in similar situations, but not because of an
Not
explosion.
because of an explosion, yeah.
But as I said, it was the largest explosion ever created by man. A record that would stand until the end of World War II when we dropped nuclear bombs on Japan.
That's incredible.
Yeah, the devastation was instant and extreme. The city was decimated. The death toll seemed incalculable to those on scene. And maybe worst of all, though, 10,000 children, again with the children, were left injured, homeless, and or orphaned by the explosion. Some, all three at the same time.
And that little girl was landed where he did, right?
Right.
That's essentially a swamp, but she wasn't supposed to be there either.
Right. She got blown through the air, too. Yeah. And this is less than 3 weeks before Christmas.
Yeah.
Here's the silver lining. What followed was maybe the biggest regional grassroots charity drive ever organized. Not only did aid for the recovery come from far and wide to help rebuild the city of Halifax, but by Christmas morning, there had been enough donations collected and enough volunteers signing up to help that every one of those 10,000 plus wayward children received gifts consisting of fruit, candy, and cake in hospital wards and orphanages, properly decorated for the holiday.
Dang.
They actually saved Christmas as much as possible for those kids. Yeah. In the shadow of what was the greatest...
So this is a feel-good story.
Well, I mean,
I know.
There's a light.
The
at the
light
end.
side.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. But in the shadow of what was literally the greatest disaster of its kind to date, the people of Halifax were at least able to save Christmas for over 10,000 children that were torn apart by that explosion. That's at least there's something.
Yeah,
there's something to fall back on there.
With you.
It just shows how people can get together in the face of disaster, All right. This is exhausting a little bit. Let's jump to the next disaster so we can get out of here, but I'm going to take a breath real quick. Okay, everybody ready? You ready?
I'm ready.
Gird yourself. The water is worse than the fire, let me tell you. There's a reason we're doing it second. Still getting worse as we go. The biggest explosion ever outside of nuclear bombs just happened, and it's still going to get worse.
Yeah.
So hold on.
Dang. To what? It's not going to help.
Yeah. For our next winter-based disaster, we jump back another 200 years in the Wayback Machine to the year 1717. Like specifically 200 years. Specifically, Christmas Day in the Netherlands. So now we're going over to the Netherlands. We go now to the scene of the last great flood of the Netherlands' North Sea coast. For this, we go to thetimes.com/UK for the whole story.
Is that why they had to build the Amsterdam?
A white Christmas is something of a national obsession, even though snow at Christmas in Britain has become increasingly rare in recent times. What is often overlooked, though, is that this can be a very stormy time of year that can make a misery and even a disaster of Christmas. Yeah. Kind of like what we do here at MLT every year now, apparently. Mm-hmm. It was 300 years ago that one of the greatest storm surge disasters in history struck on Christmas Day, 1717.
So, water storm surge coast?
Correct. Okay. Correct. A huge surge swept along the North Sea coastline of Europe. In the early hours of Christmas morning, the sea invaded a large part of the coastline from Germany to the Netherlands. Torrents of seawater drowned thousands of people in their beds and sent others scrambling for safety up on roofs, trees, and tall buildings. By the time the storm had subsided, many of the survivors of the flood had perished from cold and exposure. An estimated 14,000 people were killed, along with countless livestock, and homes swept away. It was the worst flood for 4 centuries. Continuing with this from Wikipedia. It was the last large storm flood in the north of the Netherlands. Floodwaters reached the towns and cities of Groningen, Zwolle, Dokkum, Amsterdam, and Haarlem. Many villages near the sea were devastated entirely, such as in the west of Vlieland and villages behind the sea dikes of Groningen province. The local communities had to cope with population loss, economic decline, and poverty. No area of the coast between the Netherlands and Denmark was spared. Everywhere, dike breaches were followed by wide flooding of the flat country. Between Tunder and Slesvig and Emden in East Frisia, about 9,000 people drowned. Remember, this is the 1700s. There weren't all that many people in one place.
I was thinking about that. The tsunami from Japan, it was just because populations and everyone's swimming in the resorts. This was not as a populated an area, and yet we still have this.
Percentage-wise, these are huge numbers of their population.
Yep.
Let me finish this off. The Netherlands had 2,500 victims. The worst affected areas were in the county of Oldenburg, around Jever, Kedingen, and the Principality of East Frisia. Bujaringen lost 30% of its population. There you go, 30% of its population. In all the affected coastal areas, a large number of cattle were lost. In East Frisia, 900 houses were washed away completely. It's like the whole town for them.
But some of the cattle, could have been abducted. We don't know that.
You never know. The damage to dikes and sluices was immense. Survivors remained unaware of the fate of missing family members for a long time. For example, of 284 persons missing from Woerdum in East Frisia, only 32 of them had been found by the 5th of February. So like a month and a half later, they had only found like a little over 10% of the missing. Now we're going to go back to the times.com/UK to finish this off. The Christmas flood should not have come as a surprise, though. In the Netherlands, Thomas van Seraat, a water engineer, had warned of the poor state of his nation's dikes, the defenses used to hold back the sea. The dikes were earth embankments, but they were too small and had been weakened by people digging out the soil around the bottom of the dikes. After the flood, Van Seraat directed a major reconstruction of the sea defenses and created the foundations of today's modern-day dikes.
Where they had the kid with the finger. That's
stick the finger in it. Higher, wider, and less steep than previously used. So higher, wider, less steep. Although the Christmas flood of 1717 may seem irrelevant today, a map of the low-lying areas in northwest Europe that were flooded shows that the same areas are today threatened by extreme sea level rise and possible worse storm surges.
Yeah.
The lesson of 1717 is that flood defenses need to be maintained at all costs to avoid another catastrophe.
Despite cost.
Yeah, I mean, how much is it worth to not have the sea
envelop your country,
literally cover over your whole city? Yeah. Like, what's that worth?
I get it.
It's kind of like, it reminds me, honestly, of Katrina in New Orleans, where you got the city that's on the coast and below sea level, and the only thing protecting it is these walls that man built to try to hold back the ocean. And we're good, but how good are we really? This is the ocean. This is Mother Nature, dude.
But I think if I'm not wrong, I think they have the most advanced now dike system on the planet.
Good call, man. I'm going to start reading my notes again, because this is exactly what I'm getting ready to talk about.
A bunch of kids with a bunch of fingers.
Yeah, they got like 8 fingers on each hand, so they can plug all the holes. Yeah. But it is disasters like this that led the Dutch to become the world leaders in dike technology. And it was this disaster in particular that lit a fire under their engineers to find a way to keep the ocean at bay better as, time progressed. The Dutch have been world renowned for their dike technology for centuries now, since 1717, really. And they keep focusing on improving on what they already know. And they're still working on making it better. Dutch dikes are strong due to a combination of historical experience and modern engineering techniques. They are constructed with a core of sand and covered by a thick layer of clay, which provides waterproofing and resistance against erosion, ensuring they can withstand the pressures of both sea and river flooding. Their current seawall along the North Sea coast is said to cost in excess of $1 billion. That's a B. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. They are currently engineering updates for their seawall to combat the currently rising sea levels due to climate change. For a whole country that is on the coast and mostly below sea level, like I was saying, like New Orleans, but it's a whole country, this technology is a matter of literal life and death for much of their population. So let's hope they are able to, keep up with the changing world. But for us, it is time to jump back into our Tesseractian phone booth we got from our friend Rufus.
That was Dr.
Huh? No, that Bill and Ted.
Okay.
No. He said we were going to have to save the world with our podcast mods.
But this is closer to the UK, which has the TARDIS, which is more... Anyway, they're very similar.
I forget what we were in the Wayback Machine earlier. I'm totally mixing my metaphors either way. So
we're going any direction in time, just like the dike can take any direction of water.
We can travel by TARDIS, phone booth, or Wayback Machine.
No matter how this ends, we're going to be naked in a swamp, wondering how we got here.
I very well may be waking up naked on a hillside tomorrow. I'm going to need some drinks after this one, man.
Yeah, but to get a swamp from Flagstaff would have to be a pretty big explosion. I don't think we'd have to worry about landing.
Well, there's Lake Mary. There's always Lake Mary.
Yeah, true.
That would be a nice flight.
We'll be fine.
Anywho, where was I here? Oh yeah, so let's just call it the Wayback Machine again, and this time we're going to fast forward to Christmas Eve in the year 1974. And just to show we don't discriminate here, we're going to jump halfway around the globe again this time to the coastal Australian city of Darwin. There is a small but violent storm over the Pacific near Australia's northern coast, and it has just taken a strange turn. Let's go to a mashup version of Cyclone Tracy's Wikipedia page to see how the storm has tracked. On 20 December 1974, the United States' ESSA-8 environmental satellite recorded a large cloud mass centered over the Arafura Sea, about 370 kilometers or 230 miles northeast of Darwin. This disturbance was tracked by the Darwin Weather Bureau's regional director Ray Wilkie and by senior meteorologist Jeff Crane. On 21 December, the ESSA-8 satellite showed evidence of a newly formed circular center near latitude 8 degrees south and longitude 135 degrees east. Crane, the meteorological duty officer at the time, issued the initial tropical cyclone alert, describing the storm as a tropical low that could develop into a tropical cyclone. Later in the evening, the Darwin Meteorological Office received an infrared satellite image from the NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, from their satellite NOAA-4, showing that the low pressure had developed further and that spiraling clouds could be observed. The storm was officially pronounced a tropical cyclone at around 10 p.m. on 21 December, when it was around 360 kilometers or 225 miles northeast of Darwin. It's just kind of hanging out there building. Cyclone Tracy was first observed on the Darwin radar on the morning of the 22nd of December. Over the next few days, the cyclone moved in a southwesterly direction, passing north of Darwin on 22 December. A broadcast on ABC radio that day stated that Cyclone Tracy posed no immediate threat to Darwin. It went past. However, Early in the morning of the 24th of December, Christmas Eve, Tracy rounded Cape Fourcroy on the western tip of Bathurst Island and moved in a southeasterly direction straight towards Darwin. The Bureau's weather station at Cape Fourcroy measured a mean wind speed of 120 kilometers per hour, which is 75 miles per hour, at 9 o'clock that morning. So totally button hooked and came right back at him. By late afternoon on the 24th of December, the sky over the city was heavily overcast with low clouds and was experiencing strong rain. Residents of Darwin were celebrating Christmas, and they did not immediately acknowledge the emergency, partly because they had been alerted to an earlier cyclone, Selma, which passed west of the city, not affecting it in any way. Additionally, news outlets had only a skeleton crew on duty over the holiday. They basically told everyone it was going to be fine, go have a fun Christmas.
Right.
And then the storm button hooked and came right back at them, and nobody even knows it's coming. One more paragraph here. After 10 p.m. local time, damage became severe, with wind gusts reaching 217 kilometers per hour. That's 135 miles an hour. That's Cat 5 hurricane type stuff right there, I think, right?
Yeah,
4. It's a big one. And that was measured before the instruments failed, so it probably got worse. The anemometer in Darwin Airport control tower had its needle bent in half by the strength of the gusts. Things supposed to be measuring the speed of the wind got bent in half because the wind was blowing so hard.
Between 4 and 5, we'll have to look that one up.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we'll look that one up. That's actually a good thing for old business. Old business, cat hurricanes.
You know, it makes me think of it. If you get kilometers per hour, miles per hour wrong when you're actually covering something, could be a lot more wind damage and a lot more deaths if you get it wrong.
Yeah. You might make it like 10 times worse if you do your math wrong.
You do your math wrong.
You better watch that, you meteorologists. Yikes. So for a toll of the devastation to follow the storm, here is another mashup of the story told on the Australian National Maritime Museum website, C.Museum. That's a cool website, isn't it? C.Museum is the Australian National Maritime Museum. Even outside the disaster thing. Kind of a cool website, honestly. But let's see what they have to say about the effects of Cyclone Tracy on Darwin. It was midnight when Darwin started to feel the cyclone's effects. Tracy had changed direction and was heading straight for the city. It was a Category 4 and crossed the coast at about 3:30 a.m. The winds were officially recorded at 217 kilometers per hour before the measuring equipment at Darwin Airport was destroyed. The Bureau of Meteorology estimated the maximum wind speed to have been higher at 240 kilometers per hour. Advance's commanding officer, Lieutenant Peter Breeze, spoke of his serious concerns as the storm approached.
Yeah, a guy named Breeze is concerned. Not buying it.
Too much wind for the breeze, man. Quote, I had doubts about this cyclone. We had been tracking it on our radar all afternoon, and it looked a very bad one, unquote. Here's the worst part. You heard the timing of that and the whole buildup. They didn't think it was even going to be a thing. And now it's 3:30 in the morning of Christmas.
It swings back. Nobody's opened their presents yet.
Yeah. So let me continue with this reading. Most people were sleeping when Tracy hit. In the end, at least 66 people were killed. 13 of them were lost at sea. Many more were injured. At least 70% of homes in Darwin were destroyed or severely damaged, and communications, power, water, and sewerage were all cut.
Wi-Fi
wasn't a thing yet, really. The Northern Territory government put the population of Darwin at about 47,000 at the time. More than 40,000 were left homeless, and the majority were evacuated within days or weeks, some never to return. 40 out of 47,000 people lost their home.
Yeah.
All at once in a matter of a few hours. That's crazy. Within days, the RAN Royal Australian Navy, officially launched Operation Navy Help and became a major part of the disaster relief and recovery effort. It was RAND's biggest ever peacetime operation, involved 13 Navy ships, 11 aircraft, and about 3,000 personnel sent to Darwin. The RAND task force was in the city for a month, from the 31st of December 1974 to the 31st of January 1975. Darwin's then mayor, Harry Tiger Brennan, said to the Royal Australian Navy News, quote, "We owe the Navy the greatest debt of all," unquote. 2 months after the disaster, then Prime Minister Gough Whitlam announced the creation of the Darwin Reconstruction Commission. It took about 3.5 years to rebuild the city. More than 2,500 homes were built or repaired by the time it officially ended in mid-1978. The buildings were constructed to a higher standard to withstand future cyclones. But up to 60% of Darwin's residents who'd fled or were evacuated after Cyclone Tracy would never return. When the construction was finished, Darwin was a very different city. 60% of their population never went back.
Yeah, it's a mass exodus.
It destroyed the whole place, and even after all that effort and all the money, all the time put into rebuilding it, it wasn't even half of what it was to begin with.
Yeah, and the one guy who stayed gets a Darwin Award. You know.
Yeah. Or I don't know. Oh, we gave Junebug Mad Cujos already. Maybe I just realized, like, how the fuck do you give Mad Cujos in an episode like this?
Oh, so you didn't even think ahead for that. Luckily, well, you did.
I'm glad my dog made noise earlier, so we could give her Mad Cujo.
You forgot something, Master.
Ooh. But anyway, okay, back to this. I mean, like we said, what a horrible time. 3:30 a.m. on Christmas morning, after they were given the all clear. Everyone is at the peak of their holiday experience, all bedded down, dreaming about Christmas morning to come. Everything's all prepared. Presents under the tree, and the turkey's in the oven, even, kind of thing.
Deep fryer for this episode.
Oh, excuse me, the turkey's in the deep fryer, and boom!
Yeah,
like the world is literally just shattered around them, and everything they hold dear is literally washed away.
Yeah,
all the presents, the feast, destroyed before a single moment of enjoyment could be had.
I would like to know the Grinch or the Mothman sightings. But was there a spike?
Well, the Grinch would maybe side trail. No, I already read side trail. I didn't do the Mothman thing because you did a whole episode on the Mothman.
Yeah,
episode 59 if you want the Mothman.
Yeah. But the Silver Bridge, you do have to give honorable mention to that disaster.
I guess Christmas. That would have been a water thing, yeah. I didn't even really think of I didn't think of the water element in that. But we already did like I said, episode 59 if you want the whole Mothman thing.
Yep.
Or maybe, maybe in the future Christmas episodes, we can bring that back up again. But we just did that like a dozen episodes ago. So I didn't think it proper.
Not even.
Not really proper to bring back up. I'm just focusing on nature, not, the ominous portents in this one as well. But, we all have
that
our
was
style.
Engineering and Mothman. It's not actually nature.
Right. So, yeah, just like totally devastated the city all at once. At the worst possible time, and the scars from the event have actually lasted to this day. I like doing the little follow-ups here that put the silver lining on it. So real quick from abc.net.au, published in 2019, 45 years after the event. I'm going to read you this bit of an article. Survivors of Cyclone Tracy have said they are still experiencing ongoing trauma. Many have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, decades after one of Australia's worst natural disasters. But there is a Facebook support group for survivors where they gather to share their pain and loss, especially around the holidays this time of year, which has been very helpful to a lot of them over the years. But the membership numbers are dwindling as the years pass. 45 years is a long time. Those who were already adults when this happened, are dying less tragic deaths, but time takes its toll on all of us in the end. But it was in the article that there's still the people who lived through that still feel it every year, 45 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cultural trauma from that area.
Yeah. But I guess my point today is for all our listeners out there. I know how depressing this is, but think about the fact that no matter how bad your Christmas is today or tomorrow, comes out on Christmas Eve, no matter how bad your Christmas might be this year, it could be worse.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
Yeah. Trump's cabinet picks.
But that's actually kind of a great transition into our next bit here, because we're about to do the worst Christmas of all, which you kind of made a little bit of a reference to earlier, although I think you got your geography a little wrong.
Oh, okay. What did I do?
The Wayback Machine is now going to jump us forward again to the year 2004, exactly 20 years ago. We have covered the disasters of Christmas Eves and Christmases past. Now we're actually going to give a monstrous shout out to the other side of the holiday, which we referenced a little earlier. But as I said, I referred to this as Canadian Christmas. Boxing Day, which is December 26th. Boxing Day is a holiday for many Canadians and some other places. I think the UK and I forget there's a number of places that actually recognize it. But it takes place on December 26th. It was originally a day for actually donating gifts to the needy. But with the rapid acceleration of consumerism and capitalism in today's markets, it is now typically celebrated with post-Christmas sales shopping and getting blitzed while watching some ice hockey. Yeah? And for all you deadheads out there, Boxing Day, also known as the Feast of St. Stephen. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
What's the St. Stephen thing?
St. Stephen with a rose. In and out of the garden he goes. It's a Grateful Dead song.
Oh, okay.
I
was thinking
the Feast of St. Stephen on the day after Christmas. That's something some hippies might want to know about.
There you go.
I'm just saying.
That was from I Steal Your Facebook, right?
There you go. Yeah, well done. But I'm just trying to lighten it up here a little bit before we get into the worst of the worst.
oh, groovy.
So our current location, once the Wayback Machine lands at our final destination, December 26th, morning of Boxing Day, 2004, Indonesia. Okay. What would actually still be Christmas night for us in the Western Hemisphere, actually, because this is like 8:30 in the morning on December 26th. So for a lot of the world, this is still Christmas night. For them, it's the morning of Boxing Day. A truly monstrous earthquake violently shook the floor of the Indian Ocean. Yeah. What resulted is one of the most devastating natural disasters in history. To learn more, we have a reading from the National Academy of Engineering's website, nae.edu. It will describe what unfolded that morning in all its monstrous detail, but I will also speak to the improvements in building safety we were talking about a little bit earlier, like with the dikes and stuff. So I'm still going to hit a silver lining at the end, so stick with us. All right, so here's that from nae.edu. On December 26, 2004, at 7:58 a.m. local time, a powerful earthquake, moment magnitude 9.2, occurred in the Indian Ocean. The Sumatra-Andaman earthquake was one of the 3 largest earthquakes ever recorded. The fault rupture propagated 1,300 to 1,600 kilometers northwest for about 10 minutes along the boundary between the Indo-Australian Plate and the Eurasian Plate, from northwestern Sumatra to the Nicobar Islands and to the Andaman Islands. You can go on Google Maps and actually see this. I actually looked at this when if you're really curious, look at the map and see these places and you'll see just how big this was. But continuing. The hypocenter, the point where the fault rupture originated, was 10 kilometers deep. The Indo-Australian Plate moved northeast relative to the Eurasian Plate. A compounding problem was tectonic subsidence, resulting in 20 to 100 centimeters of downwarping of the Earth's crust beneath the Asa region. The subsidence extended for at least 280 kilometers along the entire northwestern Asa coast. This submergence thwarted rescue efforts and has hindered the restoration of roads, bridges, and utility distribution systems. So as an aside, The Asa region is like northern part of an island that got hit really hard, and it literally the coastline literally dropped 20 to 100 centimeters, so as much as 3 feet, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're connected to pipelines and there's docks for boats and all of a sudden the land just drops 3 feet, everything's broken, and you have to like rebuild from scratch. Yeah. All right, back to it. The fault rupture uplifted the ocean floor, releasing the most destructive series of tsunami waves in recorded history. The waves spread throughout the Indian Ocean, causing damage in the coastal communities of 12 countries. By far the most damaging effects were sustained by Asa province, where 3 devastating waves struck the western shore within about 30 minutes. The tsunami waves ranged from 4 to 39 meters high and destroyed more than 250 coastal communities. 39 meters high. That's over 100 feet, dude.
Yeah.
Like, picture over 100-foot storm surge rolling in to your town. The whole place just instantly underwater.
It's a bad day.
Ugh. In the low-lying areas of western coastal Sumatra, including the city of Banda Aceh, the tsunami waves extended inland as far as 5 kilometers, that's like 3 miles, affecting a large portion of the population of 300,000 people. The western part of the city has nearly flat topography traversed by rivers and drainage channels. In these areas, the maximum wave flow height was 4 to 8 meters. In hilly areas south of Banda Aceh, the wave flow height was significantly greater due to the topography. Residential neighborhoods and fishing villages in coastal areas were entirely devastated, and houses were swept inland or out to sea. The traditional construction that had resisted shaking damage could not resist the tsunami forces, and most were obliterated. The resulting tsunami affected 12 nations around the Indian Ocean, with Indonesia suffering the greatest damage. In Aceh, the northern province of Sumatra, the United Nations Field Office reported approximately 131,000 people confirmed dead and 37,000 more missing. It's 168,000 people if you add it up. With more than 80,000 houses sustaining major damage or collapse, the UN estimated that more than 500,000 people were displaced from their homes in Sumatra alone. In addition to the massive damage to housing, utilities, roads, and bridges, the disaster significantly disrupted the social fabric and government of the affected communities. Wow. You remember that, Moss?
Yeah.
That would, like, we watched that on the news.
Yeah.
That's modern enough. We, like, saw that on the news.
Yeah.
20 years ago, you know, there's a lot of people in the world now that don't actually remember this. Because, like, if you're younger than 25 years old, you probably don't remember this.
There's actually, we have an US file related to that. There's an,
To the tsunami?
Our resident INFJ.
Oh, did she have a dream about it or something?
She said something that rippled through the family like a wave. It wasn't she didn't predict it. She just said something else was going to happen in the next week, and she goes, more people will die from water this week.
Whoa.
And there was a second event. I think it was Bangladesh and Burma, you know, so there was a second event.
We got to get her on this podcast, kid. You keep teasing me with that.
I'm just saying what she was saying.
Yeah. I mean, it literally shook the world. And that is the most devastating natural disaster in modern times right there. And the effects were global. I'm not speaking figuratively that it affected the whole world. The impact of the tectonic plate shifting actually caused the Earth to tilt 0.3 of a degree on its axis. Did you know that?
I did know that.
That is enough to change global weather patterns.
Yeah.
Seasonal shifts.
You have we've talked about this, and you have other theories that rippled
I think it's part of what's going on.
Why there's actually weather pattern changes to this day. You've said that to me.
Yeah.
And you bring it back to that event.
Yeah. I have it right here in my notes, actually. I remember seeing a meteorologist say in the days following this disaster that it would have major impacts on global weather patterns. This is why I think this. I heard it from a source, but the full impacts we wouldn't know for years or even decades to come. And it's too complex of a system. We don't know it well enough to even know what that specifically caused.
Right.
But it tilted the Earth 0.3 of a degree. And that's going to change the weather patterns.
We're going to have to redo the pyramids at some point. This is a disaster.
With the way the compass points are going to be changing. Yeah. They're not going to be true to north and shit anymore.
Damn you, Aquarius.
Actually, it all comes back to Leo if you're talking about the pyramids.
Yeah.
If you really want to
transition from Leo to Aquarius.
I have read Graham Hancock's Message of the Sphinx. That's
Haven't
we
all? Haven't we all?
If you haven't, you should.
Yes.
Put that out there. But I did leave it hanging there, but I said how I was going to put the silver lining on at the end.
With a silver bridge lining. We're back to Mothman.
Yeah. You already did that, episode 59.
That's true.
But here is more from that same article about the difference in older and modernized building techniques, what we learned, and how we improved, so that hopefully 500,000 people don't have to go through this again. Okay, here's the article. Most well-designed and well-constructed buildings and industrial facilities that had withstood the earthquake shaking also withstood the tsunami waves and suffered only minor damage. For example, the Lafarge cement plant, a well-designed and well-constructed steel frame series of industrial structures about 20 kilometers southwest of Banda Aceh, did not experience structural damage from the strong shaking and was not damaged by the tsunami waves, which, as documents by Stadia Rod, reached a wave flow height of 38.9 meters nearby. There was over 100 feet of water flowed over these buildings, and they were fine because they were built with modern techniques. See? Continuing, several 1- and 2-story administrative buildings and machine shops were smashed by waves carrying nearly empty, large oil storage tanks. So not just the water, but all kinds of other stuff. The impact of the waves caused non-structural damage to some of the buildings. For example, metal siding was stripped from the steel frame buildings up to the height of the waves. So superficial only. Although routinely constructed houses and buildings may have been able to survive the earthquake shaking, tsunami waves devastated almost all of them. Most well-designed and well-constructed utility and industrial facilities had sufficient capacity to withstand both the earthquake and the tsunami. Partially full storage tanks, bridges, and other light structures that were not anchored to their foundations were not able to resist the tsunami forces. Tectonic subsidence and the liquefaction were significant contributors to the devastation. So there you go. As monstrously destructive as Mother Nature can be, we're at least getting better at protecting ourselves from her wrath. The places that were built properly actually withstood that. And that was about as bad as it can get.
It's insane.
9.2 on the Richter scale earthquake, followed by a 100-foot tsunami. Yeah. And these buildings withstood it with just superficial damage. Yeah. Shows you that we can do it if we want to.
Right.
This is a good thing.
But we don't, is the bad thing.
We don't for most things still is the problem. Yeah. Oh, boy. That was a lot of death and destruction and dying, man. I'm going to need some beers.
Yep. Well, there's some eggnog roasting on the open fire.
I did do some closing segments, even though this doesn't really fit our typical mold of an episode. Do you have any thoughts or questions or comments or anything before we get into the closing stuff here, Moz?
Thanks, Jeremy.
You're welcome, Moz. You put that tooth-stealing evil elf in my brain last Christmas. I'm just paying it back.
Yeah.
Just paying it back. Because that guy still lives in my brain rent-free.
He's a serial killer. He is a serial killer. I'm convinced.
Yeah. It reminds me of the dentist from Little Shop of Horrors, you know?
Yeah. Well,
is that Steve Martin, right?
Moranis there.
Rick Moranis was the guy. No, the dentist.
Steve Martin was the dentist. Yeah. Rick Moranis was the,
Yeah. The most evil role Steve Martin ever played, I think, actually.
Yeah. Wasn't Man with Two Brains, was he evil in that?
I don't know if it was as evil as that dentist, dude.
Yeah.
That guy was
Good
crazy.
Good point.
The tooth stuff really messes with my head.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some closing things to wrap up this Christmas episode. As is the case with all our real-life monstrousness kind of episodes that I try to work in here with the disasters and or true crime and things like that, our usual closing segments don't really fit the subject matter. But in the spirit of giving it Christmas time, I did squeeze them in to fit the holiday mold here. So this might get a little random, but, it's all in good fun at this point. You ready for an Ahul Guano theory of the week?
Let's do it.
Ahul Guano theory of the week.
Oh no, here it comes! Quick, to the batshit signal.
Krampus did it. With his bull-nosed bullfrogs pulling his evil sleigh.
Wow.
He is manipulating the tides. He is blowing things up. He's lighting fires. And he's just generally ruining the entire world's Christmases.
But here's the thing. If he's a frog that's distributing psilocybin at the end of the day, the aftermath should be better for everyone.
Wait, the frog is giving out psilocybin?
I think...
that's why it's blue.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was the connection between Frog Flap and the ancient, Aztec.
So you're saying that both Santa and Krampus are mushrooms?
I'm saying Buford, the frog episode was about psilocybin at the end of the day. And yes, last year we talked about, and that most people, and you have that in Supernatural as well, with Graham Hancock, the mushroom connection between Santa and psilocybin. Psilocybin is a very Christmassy kind of thing to do.
So Christmas is a psychedelic holiday. That's interesting.
Maybe we finally found out what Nog is.
I did forget to mention your previous Christmas episodes are at numbers 16 and 17. If anybody does want to check those out after and do the Christmas trifecta. We did a 2-episode release last Christmas.
Yeah.
So this is only our second season. We already have 3 Christmas episodes. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So we're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
By 1.
And you also outdid my Ahul Guano theory with your own, which you always steal my thunder on the Ahul Guano.
What was mine?
You're good at the weirdness. That everything is just mushrooms and we should just trip out on Christmas, I think is what you just told us.
Yeah. Yeah. Does
that track?
Well, the aftermath would be better if there's really a psilocybin-y component to it. The same stuff would happen. We'll just deal with it a little better the next day. So
there you go. Just keep getting better. That's all we can really do, right? It's that long road from hate to love.
There you go.
That we're trying to traverse one step at a time. I may have taken us 2 steps backwards with this one. So that would bring us to Sir Richard Scully Muggle's Skeptics Review.
You're full of crap, and that's the nicest thing that I can say.
Okay.
How do we even have one for
I
that?
know, right? It doesn't even make sense, does it?
No.
I don't remember what I wrote, so I'm going to read my notes and see what happens. So this episode felt like things are just bad all over. So to actually brighten our holiday spirits before we go, I will use this Skeptics Review to tell you, oh no, dear listener, things are not as bad as your mean old host has made things to seem. In fact, in terms of fatalities from natural disasters in the world, we're getting better all the time.
How?
We're getting better all the time.
Technology, yeah.
I found a chart on ourworldindata.org. Cool for the paranerdalist that wants some stats on random nonsense, but some cool, meaningful stuff too. I found a chart that shows global deaths from natural disasters by decade. Happy stuff. The link is in the show notes at the end of the list if you want to look at it. But for those not in position to look it up as you're listening, we will describe it in detail here. The chart defines disasters to, quote, include all geophysical, meteorological, and climate events, including earthquakes, volcanic activity, landslides, drought, wildfires, storms, and flooding. Decadal figures are measured as the annual average over the subsequent 10-year period. Okay, so it's all natural disasters by decade. How many people died? worldwide. Here are the global death tolls at the hands of Mother Nature by decade for the last 100 years. I rounded it all off to the nearest thousand. I'm going to start in the 1920s and tell me if you notice a pattern as we go, okay? 1920s, 524,000 people. 1930s, 463,000 people. 40s, 387,000 people. 50s, 61,000 people. Big drop. 1960s, 326,000. Fluctuating. 1970s, 99,000. 80s, 75,000. 90s, 43,000. 2000s, 78,000. The 10s, 45,000. In the 20s, 38,000. On the overall, we see a steady decline in deaths by nature over the decades. This isn't just luck or weather patterns. It is humans learning from these disasters, getting better at protecting ourselves from their effects. As with the Dutch dikes we talked about after the 1717 flood, the building codes in Darwin, Australia after Cyclone Tracy. All this adds up. It seems the world has become a safer place for us over the years. That's reassuring, right?
I think it's going to tick back up.
Well, let me get into this because there is something odd here that I noticed. The odd trends that I noted is the back and forth pattern in the last 5 decades.
Yeah.
From the 80s to the 10s, it goes from 75,000 to 43,000 to 78,000 to 45,000. You see the pattern there. 70s, 40s, 70s, 40s. Now the 20s are at 38. That only counts through April 2024. That's less than halfway through the decade. We can already add the impacts of recent hurricanes in the American South. That devastation that swept from Florida up to North Carolina, that's not on this list. We can already add that.
Right.
So it looks like the 20s are going to continue that trend swinging back and forth, and it's going to put us somewhere in the 70s rather than the 40s this time around.
Which is
So,
part of the pattern.
you know, maybe not go to the ocean too much in the next 5 years. Stay away from the volcano places. I'm wondering if Flagstaff might get a new volcano soon. But let's hope we keep learning to better protect ourselves as well as nature becomes even more heated.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what it's doing. The higher those oceans get, the more we got to be prepared to protect ourselves. One other weird thing, though, there's that crazy drop in the 50s.
Yeah, I did notice that from
300,000s down to 60,000, right back up to 300,000.
Yeah. I think the creation of muscle cars might have something to do with that.
Yeah, it made the 60s look bad, I tell you what.
Yeah.
I do wonder if it's just the after effects of the world wars and stuff too, though. Like, did people not go to the beach in the 50s because everybody was working too much, kind of thing? You know what I mean? Were there just a lot less people?
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, like, what was that drop? Because if you take that out, everything's just kind of the steady progression down until you get to these recent flip-flop thing. But the 50s, just like, it's like nobody went outside for 10 years.
I really think that's when we started to really, science started to really kick in.
So what happened in the 60s then that it went back up to the 300,000?
Well, it's always waffling, but the big, you're right.
That's a huge jump, though. Like 70s to 40s is one thing, but like 300,000 down to 60,000.
Yeah, it never reached that again. It never reached that again. It was every year was very high except for the 50s, and then technology started to help us. What was the deal with it? Well, because the 50s were just happy days.
I guess, yeah. Hey. Happy days, hey.
There's a tsunami. I'm going to just hit the jukebox with my fist and skip that song.
Weird the things statistics will do to you sometimes. But all right, so let's wrap up this holiday disaster with this year's Christmas version of Wolfman Puck's Cryptid Culinary Corner.
Your entree, sir. Oh, smells good.
Once again, Moz is like, how the hell do you even do this?
I didn't do it because I didn't know.
Well, it's Christmas, and I just wanted to make sure we did our bits, and I'm determined to leave off on a high note, Moz. So for this bright side edition of Wolfman Pucks, I just want to ask you one question, sir. What is included in your favorite ever Christmas Day feast? What do you like to eat on Christmas?
Roast beast carved by the Grinch.
Oh, nice. I like turkey with side lasagna. There's nothing better than...
What is side lasagna?
It's really just a big tray of lasagna that comes with the turkey. See, I like Christmas to be Thanksgiving plus lasagna.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
And that has what to do with what?
Nothing. It has nothing to do with nothing.
Well, then I'm going to just win right now because you didn't.
All that has to do with is maybe I can be nice enough to my mom that she'll make me a side lasagna for Christmas this year.
You know what, Mom? I haven't had a side lasagna in a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah. When they wrap it and it just oozes by Christmas morning.
No.
No, I already hinted at mine and I thought of it earlier in this episode. Nog. We don't know what is in it. It's psilocybin. So I'm giving everyone eggnog to save humanity.
No. If it was psilocybin, I would drink it more.
No, I'm saying, though. Well, I'm just saying.
It's supposed to be.
What's supposed to be nog?
Kind of like Jägermeister.
It's the lost recipe. Eggnog.
Oh.
We don't know what nog is, so we made it up. We know what nog is now. Nog could save us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nog is Christmas mushrooms.
Yes. Which has to do with Buford the Blue-Nosed Bullfrog, Krampus, Santa, elves, even elves who steal teeth.
I like how heavy we were on the psychedelic references in this natural disaster episode.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but I appreciate the effort, Maz. I really do. All right, everybody. There we go. We ruined Christmas for you once again. I hope you enjoyed the ruination. We will see you actually on, New Year's Eve with Maz's next episode to celebrate the new year. We got the holiday releases built in this time around. So we're out of here. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Hope everybody is out there doing whatever it is they want to be doing and being happy about it. Anything you want to add or subvert before we go, Maz?
Well, I just say to everybody, get ready for New Year's Eve because we're going to go gin and the genie, and we're going to get dark in a different kind of way.
Yeah, the gin's going to be fun. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the Maz version of that. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. If in the meantime, if you got a little bit of that holiday cheer left, check us out at Patreon at patreon.com/monsterlore tour. You can join for just $1 a month and get early access to all our content before public release. And until, next week on New Year's Eve. I was going to say until next year, but we actually drop the day of New Year's Eve, not New Year's Day.
That's what we do.
So until next week, to all our fellow paranerdalists out there, have a good one.
Monster Lore Tour Podcast.
It's my new favorite thing, Grief
I know,
Bacon.
it is
It
awesome.
really is.
It's the best.